Hello, my soccer universe. My name is Roland, and it is Football Talk. Last one before Christmas, I would say. And yeah, over the past week or so, not only did the Africa Cup of Nations start, and if you hear some background noise, yes, this is me watching the AFCON. I absolutely love it. I mean, not super attentively except for a couple of games, but it's always on. And it's actually a happy place for me to be. I love the AFCON, and I've said that, and there's also a preview of the tournament, and more will come on this channel on the AFCON for sure. And that's maybe what will keep this channel alive, at least over this 2 week break that I'm taking now off work. And yeah, be with family. And if I have the time, I will record a little bit more. So yeah. But it also means that, we had the last round of fixtures in the Austrian League mid-December, which was already the latest, I think, that it has ever been. So on the past weekend, there was nothing in the Austrian Bundesliga. So my focus could go elsewhere, but it felt kind of like an empty week/weekend overall, because also Milan did not play in Serie A. They played in the Supercoppa, got deservedly ousted by Napoli, who ended up winning it again finally against Bologna. The highlight was, of course, the Bologna ousted Inter. For me, the highlight on penalties. It's a competition that I absolutely detest, especially ever since it has gone to Saudi Arabia. I don't see the reason why this has to go to Saudi Arabia for Italian teams. No one is interested there. They play in the smaller stadium to kind of have it fuller. And even the money they're getting is rather minor. I mean, if you play, I heard this the other day on a podcast, if you play the Milan derby by itself, they make 4 times as much money as they get prize money by being eliminated in the semis. So yeah, and the other Milan news, of course, is that the game against Como, that they cannot play because of the Olympics, is now not moved to Australia. On one side, I'm happy about that, but the reasoning was also really, really stupid overall. I mean, the AFC gave their okay, but a Serie A game cannot be marketed as a Serie A game. I mean, come on, just say no. Don't do this stupid crap, and then you want to have the referees from the Asian Confederation. Okay, I can maybe take this a little bit. Might be a change. So yeah, I think this might be a decent request, but the other thing, yeah. Well, in any case, it got changed, and I think we're all for the better for it. Now, I'm curious, where will this game be moved to? I think this will be a midweek fixture sometime. Especially Milan is already out of the cup, so there's plenty of space. I'm actually not sure. I think Como is still in it, but I'm not sure now. So I think the midweek fixture it will be, and then all that is taken care of as well. So with my 2 big teams gone, as I said, I could wander around, and it's interesting where my interest actually fell over this almost a week. I think my attention, funnily enough, was on the Intercontinental Cup final between PSG and Flamengo. And this was not quite the game that I expected. Flamengo was really competitive in that one. Yes, PSG had a great goal by Fabian Ruiz, disallowed because the ball had gone over the line. But I actually loved how he pulled it in. Kvaratskhelia gave them the lead, and I thought in the first half this was mostly PSG. However, PSG give up a penalty. Jorginho, who is not playing at Flamengo, yes, that's Jorginho that played for Italy, converts the penalty in his signature style. And then the game continues, and you could see, especially the longer the game went, especially in overtime, PSG really wanted to avoid the penalty shootout. But they got it, they couldn't get the ball over the line, and so in the end, it went to the penalty shootout, and Matvei Safanov, the Russian goalkeeper, controversial choice, was the big hero, saving 4. I mean, only the first one by Flamengo did go in, and Safanov was absolutely the hero. I mean, once he saved the first one, then it was Dembele, who is now also the FIFA Player of the Year, who pulled it straight over the bar, and you could see already in the run-up, you don't run up like to a penalty like that anymore. I found this rather disappointing, but Safanov saved the day, especially the third penalty where he almost was with the foot over the line. He just was waiting, 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 waiting. Now, curiously enough, I think on that third penalty he even broke his hand, and he still saved two more penalties. So now he's out, meaning his Ukrainian teammate can now play. And honestly, this is one of the weirdest stories in world football, that PSG have a Russian and a Ukrainian on the team, and the Ukrainian refuses to play with the Russian. I mean, on one side, understandably so, but on the other side, I mean, hey, you guys are literally on the same team. Sort it out, or one of them gotta leave. Fortunately, I think it is probably I don't know, but Safonov actually did well, and I don't know whether Safonov. I mean, he's a mute. He's not saying anything against Russia or whatever because there's probably repercussions as well. But at least privately talk to each other, I would say. But that's a whole different story. PSG, I think overall deservedly won it. I wouldn't, in a way, have minded if Flamengo win it. I mean, I do actually. I like Flamengo overall as well, but it also would have felt a little bit off for me when finally one of my teams that I'm supporting is in this Intercontinental Cup final, and then they would be losing. So in that sense, I was happy that PSG won it, and I think they also deserve it. Should have probably won the Club World Cup as well, but there were other factors going against them, namely being in the lower bracket and being scored against first in the heat of New York City, and wait for that in the World Cup final. I can already tell you, don't expect a great World Cup final. That much is definitely for certain. So that final happened on the past Wednesday, and I actually thought that also the Conference League will happen on Wednesday. No, they played it on Thursday. I guess you wanna stay with the same day of the week, but on the other side, was kind of weird. So I was actually looking forward to watching Conference League on Wednesday and then have the Thursday a little bit more free and maybe watch that FN Super Cup match. But in the end, I was happy that actually was Conference League. I mean, honestly, I did not watch too closely, although I had it on. I was more in preparation for the AFCON. But there were some interesting results. For instance, Palace, who with a win would have made it directly into the round of 16. They had a 1-0 lead. However, QPS then in the second half quickly turned it around, and it was crucial for them to get at least something from South London. However, late on, Palace equalized and they were pushing for the winner, couldn't find it. But with that point, QPS actually do qualify in 21st place for the playoff. Finnish champions are through. AZ could not really break down Jagiellonia, which means that AZ is only in 14th, Jagiellonia in 17th. Win potentially would have put AZ ahead, although goal difference was always for Larnaca. So, but a better seeding was in there for sure. We had Fiorentina losing at Lausanne, also Fiorentina in the playoff. Legia beat the Red Imps, was not enough. Then Samsunspor lost at Mainz. Mainz actually finish in the top 8, where Samsunspor fell now down all the way to 12th. Given that they have led the table for quite a while, probably a disappointment. Rakov secures second spot, probably the surprise with a 1-0 at Omonia. Rayo get a 3-0 over Drita, so they're also already in the round of 16, as are Shakhtar with a 0-0 only at home against Rijeka. Lech Poznan get the 2-1 win at Olmütz, and so Lech Poznan make it as a seeded team into the playoff, and Sigma just about hung in there thanks to a goal scored, and they got that goal back. That actually meant that they go in over Universitatea Craiova. So a little bit of drama there if you followed it. Sparta Praha, the other Czech team, 3-0 over Everton. Sparta Praha finish in the 4th spot, so they're also in quite a high seed in that playoff round, as is of course AEK, who sit in 3rd, and they were the first game on this set, beat Craiova 3-2, and that's why AEK are in a 3rd spot. Strasbourg secure 1st spot with a 3-1 over Breidablik. They have been actually pretty good in this Conference League, only managing 1 draw, I think this was against Crystal Palace. So really, really strong performance of theirs. Could they actually win it? That would be interesting. And yeah, Rapid in the last minute. They thought they had the first win, and then it's an own goal. And it's a crucial own goal because Zrinski actually make it through on the last second in 23rd spot. So this sets up, and I actually show here the bracket if we would really have the seeding as it is in the table. Of course, every line can be exchanged, but the draw will actually have quite some impact. I mean, look at the first part where we have Strasbourg and Rakov in 1 and 2. Either one of these could play against Fiorentina, and I have a gut feeling that Fiorentina will not stay that badly. So that will definitely be interesting. Crystal Palace could play Mainz, or they could go against Larnaca. Larnaca actually had, I think, beaten them earlier this season already. So while many say that Crystal Palace should be considered the favorite, it might not be that easy. I probably think they would rather go to Mainz, but we shall see. Then a similar pairing, and I always look at the big names. AZ could play against Rayo, but might not. Zelje have been a little bit on the downer as of late. And then on the bottom, it's actually kind of open. Although AEK against Samsunspor, whenever Turks and Greeks meet, that is never a cold duel. There's also Lech Poznan and Sparta Praha in there. So, definitely interesting stuff. The draw will happen in January, and here are basically the pots. As I said, yellow play against yellow. So Lausanne or Crystal Palace are seeded and will play either against Zrinski or Sigma. Either one should be favored there, and so on and so forth. We, of course, my interest is, of course, who will be drawn against Fiorentina, either Jagiellonia or Monia. Also, I think not the easiest opponents, and of course AZ, because it's the other league that I follow. It's Noah or Tarita. I think AZ, as will Celje, will likely move on. And currently, now that we know who is in the playoffs, Crystal Palace are still the favorites ahead of Strasbourg. Although Crystal Palace, and this will be a theme of this podcast, they are really down to their last man because they have a very thin squad. Oliver Glasner is not happy, has still not renewed his contract, and it showed in the Premier League. They lost 4-1 to Leeds, and as I'm recording, they're playing against Arsenal in the League Cup, a competition. Honestly, I know it has meanwhile some tradition, but it's still a competition that I think should be foregone. As I'm recording this, the game is still a scoreless draw, so Palace is holding on, but it's 53rd minute. Rounding out the favorites are Strasbourg, which I totally understand. Fiorentina, not so much. I think Rayo is an overlooked team. I think Rayo, if they can manage the league and the Conference League, they could actually be dangerous. There was quite a few other interesting events happening in the midweek, mostly cup rounds, and I think the Copa del Rey take the prize in that because there were quite some upsets. I mean, La Coruña ousting Mallorca was the first one. Barcelona got the job done just about against Guadalajara, and everyone was complaining that Lamine Yamal were playing. Then Albacete oust Celta de Vigo. It's a 2-2 after overtime. I even think that Albacete had 2-0 lead, but Celta then miss all the penalties. Atletico Madrid almost got ousted by Atletico Baleares from the 4th tier. Then we had another upset, Santander. Yes, they're leaders in the Segunda. However, still beating Villarreal. This Villarreal team is only good in La Liga and only good against teams that are actually worse than them. Whoever they lose to, that's the top teams. Everyone else, Villarreal is going on. Then Talavera de la Reina against Real Madrid. I actually had that game on as well, and Real Madrid seemed to have a comfortable 2-0 lead, even though Talavera tried to do something. I cannot just mention that, take the sponsors off. That Talavera kit was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, with this pattern within the stripes. I was absolutely amazed that a 3rd-tier team can have such a great jersey in Spain. And yes, they pulled one back, Real Madrid, and it was all Mbappé. I think he was involved in all 3 goals. And Late on, they pull another one back, and then Luni needed to stand tall. So really not a good showing by Real Madrid, who actually played a strong team. That also has to be said. And it didn't end there with the near surprise. I mean, Athletic Club only 1-0 at Urense, again, third tier team. And those teams sometimes have actually quite some sizable stadiums as well. So the Copa del Rey is probably a much better competition now that they have made in such a way that the big teams in the first few rounds have to go to smaller teams, and that is always ripe for upsets, like it is in the German Cup. I mentioned already the Liga, but we'll talk about this later, because honestly it doesn't interest me all that much. We also had in the Netherlands Cup round, but here I only saw very, very little. I think I saw the Ajax against Maasluis 7-2 away win, and I saw a little bit of Feyenoord losing to Heerenveen. Feyenoord have not won many games as of late, and Robert van Persie is already under pressure. Their luck is that then in the league it's actually also, PSV is running away, but the rest is more or less stumbling across as well. So they lose at home to Heerenveen, which relatively good form, I gotta say. And yes, they twice pulled one back, but was never enough. But there were some other weird results. 26-3 at Sparkenburg. We had PSV against GVVV. What a name. I love Dutch names. 3-0. So quite interesting. We also know already the pairings for the next round here. And we have AZ against Ajax as the big match up there. So also interesting stuff happening in the Netherlands. And we also had some cup action in Portugal, but that is incomplete and it will be completed not only tonight. I actually see that I could look up the result that Braga has, but there will be also during the Christmas break. There's the third league duel, the last one there. But we had Benfica winning at Farense. We had Sporting needing overtime against Santa Clara, whereas Porto against Famalicão easily 4-1. And an upset, Vitória losing at home to AVS. That's the last place team in Liga Portugal, so also a little bit of an upset. And I think here we also know the next round is already drawn as far as I know. And it gives us Porto against Benfica. I mean, what more do you want? Let's actually stay with cup action, but we'll go to the weekend because the French Cup was also the first round where the Ligue 1 teams do enter, and we had one upset. Avranches, the town very close to Mont Saint-Michel, ousted Brest on penalties. They had all the penalties converted, and I think Del Castillo missed the first one for Brest. So that was a surprise. All the other teams, I think, are through. Even Nice, who are in really rough shape, managed to beat Saint-Etienne from Ligue 2. Of course, PSG 4-0 against Vendée Fontenay-Foot, and a 6-0 of OM against Bourg-Perona. And in the next round, we get actually two very interesting duels. We get Lille against Lyon. I think this is an absolute top duel. And we get a Parisian derby. And derbies in France is not something that we see all that often. And Avranches can take on Strasbourg, thanks to their exploits. And yes, this round was also the one where teams from Guadeloupe, Martinique and so on are traveling. They, of course, all got eliminated. With no Austrian Bundesliga action, I actually had an early eye on the German Bundesliga a little bit, which has not happened too often this season. It's also because the conference has now moved from Sky to the Zone, and there it collides very often with Spanish and Italian games, which does not really increase my interest in the German Bundesliga, but I know the business model actually requires them to do so. In any case, I saw the conference on Saturday and it was 5 games, and there was only one game really to talk about, and that's Wolfsburg against Freiburg. Wolfsburg, I think, had 3 times the lead as far as I know, and still lose 4-3 at home. And Freiburg actually had to work hard for that one. I was absolute mad game, especially in the second half. I think it was 1-1 at the half. And Wolfsburg scored and Freiburg again. It was gift after gift. I think the go-ahead goal for Wolfsburg was assisted by Autobolo, the Freiburg goalkeeper. Then the penalties given away. Then Wolfsburg again take the lead. Freiburg again managed equalize and then get the winner. There was a late win for Union Berlin, not Ballon, at Köln, which was remarkable. A Köln coach wearing a Christmas sweater on the bench, which was quite remarkable. But also Steffen Baumgart, former Köln coach, coming back to his old stomping ground, and he says that this was a special time for him. Now with Union Berlin, they win in the last minute when Köln were reduced to 10 men. HSV probably should have beaten Eintracht Frankfurt, and Stuttgart cannot find a win against Hoffenheim. So Hoffenheim actually go 5th in the table into this short winter break. Another big result was Leverkusen beating Leipzig away from 3-1. Leipzig seemed like not too long ago the one challenger, but Leverkusen under Hjulmand really doing a great job, and this was an impressive win. And it might well be that Leverkusen again is the second best team in Germany after a wobble early on, even though Borussia Dortmund got a 2-0 win over Gladbach. But there's also a little bit unrest in the squad. Adeyemi wants to leave. What can I say about Bayern? Bayern are just imperious. I mean, after 15 games, they have 55 goals. 41 points. It is absolutely ridiculous, the dominance that they have over the Bundesliga currently. Yes, they may eventually lose a game, but they are absolutely the best team. I think Harry Kane doesn't have to score even that many goals anymore in order to break the Lewandowski record. I think it is just above double digits, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this Bayern side is just in a different league. And that was actually right from the beginning. I remember on the first match they beat Leipzig 6-0. And yes, they had some recent wobbles, but this is a very well constructed Bayern team that probably can do something really, really special. My Serie A enjoyment was honestly a little bit dampened by the fact that 4 games were not played because of this effing Supercoppa. I mean, at least played in such a way that you don't have to truncate rounds. I just don't get it. But I guess with the Olympics in Italy, the calendar is tight. But then, you could reduce the league. I don't think Serie A necessarily needs to have 20 teams, especially there's always the promoted teams are always first candidates to go down. And I think Serie A actually would good to have a little bit of a reduction. Would also probably help in terms of competitiveness for Serie A clubs in Europe. I actually think ever since Ligue 1 went a little bit smaller, they're actually not doing that badly in Europe. Might be a gut feeling. But yeah, it was not around for the Roman teams. Lazio cannot break down Cremonese on Saturday in the early evening, and then in the late evening Juventus were largely the better team, and I think Kenan Yildiz shone again. Yes, Roma pulled one back, then cannot find an equal, but I think Juventus were really good for these 3 points, and Juventus are now in touching distance to the top teams, and in that form under Spalletti he has done a change, and that might actually lead to Juventus then finishing in the Champions League spots, and probably Roma have been a little bit on a dip as of late. Roma will be the team, I guess, that will probably fall away. I mean, that's the feeling I have now. During a season, many things can change. Among the Sunday results, the one that really sticks out is Fiorentina 5-1, their first win of the season, finally. And it's an emphatic one, and it is a win that actually had quite some good goals in there. I mean, there was a great one by Gudmundsson, there was a Mandragor figure, Moise Kean. Even the consolation goal for Udinese was not a bad goal. I think it was Oumar Soleil who yanked it in a little bit like what we'll talk about Villa with Morgan Rogers. So a really big one. Yes, it was helped in the 7th minute. Udine goalie had to come off with a red card, and that played Fiorentina into their hands, and so Fiorentina have the first win. Still bottom of the table. Pisa picked up a point late at Cagliari, so but they could reduce that deficit. Verona still have to play, Parma also still have to play, so the position did not get more comfortable, but I think we can all say that this Fiorentina team is way too talented to be all the way down there. And I know there's a lot of unrest. The sporting director had to step down. The leadership is a little bit missing, with Rocco Commisso being an owner in absentia most of the time. Yes, he's also very old, but he at least spends money. I mean, Fiorentina have a great training ground from what I hear. But the sporting direction, you lost Italiano. That did not help you. You could not hold on to now Atalanta coach Palladino because they did not jive well with your sporting director, who now under loads of pressure did step down. So I really hope the Fiorentina will move further up. I always have trouble picking teams that I want to go down in Serie A. At the moment, it is slim pickings, I have to say, because most of the teams I actually would like to stay in there. I also want to mention Genoa held on with a man less up until very last. Atalanta got them the win. Torino, very remarkable 1-0 win at Sassuolo as well. But as I said, the round was rather shortened, and actually I was watching much less Serie A than I usually do. In fact, I made it actually a point, especially on Sunday, to watch La Liga, because suddenly I think there's something happening there. I mean, yes, the Real Madrid story is a little bit tiresome to me. I said it last week. I think with all the pressure that Xabi Alonso is on, I thought Xabi doesn't get it. Xabi Alonso can do so much better. In fact, I actually think that Xabi Alonso would fit to Barcelona much better than to Real Madrid. I know he has a past at Real Madrid, but he's Basque enough that I think he could probably, I don't know. He probably could work as a Barca coach as well, if Luis Enrique can do it, played for both teams. And yes, this was a different time nowadays. Everything is so politicized, especially in Spain, and this rivalry is so big. And though it's not that big of a rivalry, because the two are very complicit when it comes to raking in the money for El Clasico. So, both of these teams, rivalry be damned, very much need each other. So they have to be more or less on the same page. And they have been as of late, although I think now there's again a little bit more, the Negreira case makes it a little bit more into a rivalry. Needless to say, Real Madrid win 2-0 at Sevilla. Did not play great. They won because they have better players. Mbappe breaks the year goal scoring record of Cristiano Ronaldo, although I think he has almost 10 games more and also more penalties, blah, blah, blah. And it's a bogus statistic. Why this is such an important thing for him, I just don't get. I mean, do your job, win titles, not personal accolades. It's football, but I actually really do not like where we are heading these days. It's all about personalities, and Mbappe is for me a prime example of that. Player that is talented, but he's worried more about himself, and it actually fits that Cristiano is his big idol. He's more worried about himself than about what the team does. He does not work for the team. He just wants, he's quite like Cristiano at Juve, where he really, he scores his goals, but everyone has to play for him, and instead of opening up spaces for his teammates, he's just taking all the action. And yes, he's supremely talented, probably the most talented footballer that we currently have. But you have to be a team player as well, and this is something that is getting completely lost. And yeah, it fits with Real Madrid, honestly, and it makes it actually easy for me to not like Real Madrid at the moment. The other teams I like in Spain way more, and none of them is one of the big teams. I can tell you that as well. Girona actually did threaten Atletico for a little bit. There needs to be an absolute mega save by Oblak was in there, but then the old guard, again Griezmann and so on, score 3 goals, and Atleti stay in 3rd place. Because Villarreal does what Villarreal do. And if you watch that game, the final scoreline 2-0 for Barcelona reads like this was one-way traffic, and you see also that there was a red card for Villarreal. And yeah, must have been very one-sided. Honestly, in the first 10-15 minutes, Villarreal had quite some chances, and they just could not get the ball over the line. It was almost ridiculous how they exploited the spaces that Barcelona do offer. And they still go a goal down because there's a penalty given against them, and it was a clear penalty. Rafinha slaughtered at home after his snubbing for FIFA the Best award, and I do agree, I don't care much to it, but if you're in the team of the season, that actually does mean a little bit more to me than the actual award. And Rafinha should have been in any team of the season. In any team of the season. He was really outstanding. So I do understand the outrage about that one. And then actually Koundé scores the equalizer for Villarreal. However, I think there was a foul or offside in the build-up. And then it's the red card, a really Vega, a really horrid tackle on Lamine Yamal. And you can see this was such a rough tackle. The first reaction of Yamal was to actually hit him with his hand. He should have seen a yellow card for that one, if you ask me. And then he took it upon himself once he could walk again miraculously. So maybe the tackle was not that bad. Nah, it was a bad tackle. It was fortunate that he didn't get injured. But he was then out for revenge, and he really reveled in scoring the 2-0 toe poke into the net. So yeah, then we had 2 4-0s with Elche completely out scoring Rayo, and Hector Ford scoring a beautiful first goal in the 7th minute, and he injured himself after that. He was still man of the match afterwards, and Betis 4-0 over Getafe is also a rather remarkable result, as is Espanyol beating Athletic Club 2-1 away from home on Monday. This was a real wake-up call. Espanyol is really good this season, and guess who will they be playing next after a short winter break in the new year? It is against Barcelona. And you know, Juan Garcia went from Espanyol to Barcelona, so expect some hatred there, I would say. I gotta be honest, I lost a little bit interest in the Eredivisie. Yes, if there's a big game, I'm still watching it, but you know, Ajax thought we had a resurgence, now only a 2-2 at Nijmegen. Yes, is understandable, but except for PSV, none of the top teams really won. We had Feyenoord, a 1-1 at home against Twente, at least they didn't lose this time. AZ lost 4-3 at Sittard. That's probably the crazy result. Groningen, also a team that is moving up, only 1-1 at the Cup winners, Go Ahead Eagles. So rather stalemate, and it seems like it's a procession for PSV, and Portugal will see a little bit once I know all the results. So now we can go to the Premier League, where I actually also saw a little bit more than I usually do, for the same reasons that I outlined for the German Bundesliga. I mean, Newcastle-Chelsea, that Newcastle let go of this 2-0 halftime lead was a little bit of a surprise. Then on the other hand, Chelsea was a beautiful free kick by Reece James, but Newcastle should have had a penalty as well. City had no problem dispatching West Ham 3-0. Wolves look really dire, 2-0 at home against Brentford. Spurs against Liverpool was a team where I had my eye, not a team, game where I had actually my eyes on. The same thing goes for Everton Arsenal. And there was nothing happening until Xavi Simons got sent off. I know this is a VAR red card. I see it by the letter of the law. It is a red card. I'd rather would have it not a red card. I actually thought then Van de Ven, the way he took down Isak, was maybe more red worthy, especially with the consequence after that Isak is now out. But it also was fitting to this Isak transfer that now he finally scores. I think it was his second goal for Liverpool, but he finally scores and he injures himself. I think there's a knee and a fractured leg. It's ugly. It's ugly. Ekitike makes it 2-0. And you again think, Liverpool 2-0 lead, this is, or should be comfortable. No, it's never. Richarlison came on, pulls one back, and then even Romero gets sent off for an absolute stupid second yellow card. I mean, absolute BS what he's doing there. This is not a captain, but still Liverpool were hanging on with 2 men less. Yes, Liverpool have steadied themselves, but it's anything but convincing. I think Slot now has a little bit more room. Probably will get the entire season, and let's see if they will find each other. I mean, Wirtz actually did play well, especially the way that he assisted the goal by Isak. So this was I think his first goal contribution in there. Mohamed Salah will come back. He has apologized, so I think he's now in the fold. And given that Isak is out, he's probably will get his minutes as well. Arsenal get a 1-0 win thanks to Gyökeres penalty against Everton. Everton were actually not that bad in that game, and Villa continued a crazy run. A couple of weeks ago I said Villa in the title race after they beat Arsenal. I still don't quite see Villa, but they have a huge run, and I think this run will potentially catapult them into something big. I think Champions League for Villa is very possible, but then it's not even the halfway point of the season. And I wonder, is this Villa like Leicester like 5-6 years ago, where they always seemed like they go into the Champions League and then just missed out? Because you have a Chelsea, you have a Liverpool in there, teams that are potentially dangerous, but Villa get their big wins, even though their XG is usually relatively low. But quite interesting stuff. I'm actually happy. I have to say, if there's really a title race, and let's put this if, I think that Villa will concentrate on top 4 finish. But if there was really a title race, I would be more than happy for Villa to win this one. More than happy. I'm slowly coming around that I guess Villa is, after all, a team in the Premier League that I support. So funny. I always said there's none, and then I find myself with more and more Villa stuff. There you go. Take it for what it is. Well, and now we have also the result of the Arsenal Palace game. And yes, it's still the world's most unnecessary club competition, although I think the Club World Cup is giving it a hard run for the money, I gotta say. But I really do not like the League Cup overall as a concept. I know there's a historical precedent why it was blah, 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 blah. It's just another cup competition in an environment where we anyway have already too many games. And yes, it's for the smaller teams, I know, but then we have 4 Premier League giants who really need anything but additional games now in the semi-finals, and that just doesn't feel right to me. In any case, Arsenal go through on penalties, and it is Lacroix who is the unlucky man for Crystal Palace. They held on until Lacroix scores an own goal in the 80th minute, and then in the 95th Maguire equalizes, and it goes straight to penalties. It is 8 rounds, and in the 8th round Lacroix sees his one missed, so he's definitely the unlucky guy in that match. And Arsenal move on where they meet Chelsea. Chelsea had beaten Cardiff City in the quarterfinal, and in the other one, City beat Brentford 2-0 and Newcastle 2-1 over Fulham, so really nothing that exciting. Exciting, I would argue, is Chelsea-Arsenal in the first semi-final. And again, why do we need to have 2 legs? Why? And the other one is Newcastle against Manchester City. So if you would like the Oil Classico in England. So one London derby, one Oil Classico is at least interesting. Let's see who will move on. I always find it. I mean, the final can be interesting. I give it that, but I have to say the semifinals, especially this 2-legged affair, it's just not doing it for me. I gotta be honest with you. And now we also can finally move on to Portugal, where we had also a last game being played on Festivus, with Victoria losing at home to Sporting 4-1. The other results were also a big win for Porto, so the title race continues, and Benfica just about stay in there. Braga losing to Estoril was a little bit of a surprise, I gotta say. And Portugal also doesn't stop for Christmas. They like the Premier League and like Serie A. They take the last weekend of the year to play around, and I guess there's with Braga Benfica an interesting matchup, at least by name, but I would think that Benfica will romp through that one. To me, Liga Portugal is insofar interesting as Porto were nowhere last year, and now with Faraoli, they're actually really rising and are currently sitting in first place, 5 points clear of Sporting. That is really impressive, and I think Porto is already preparing celebrations after this two-title intermezzo, if you would like, by Sporting. And Sporting don't win too many titles typically. So yeah, we will see. I also think that Gil Vicente now ahead of Braga, that is surprising. And also Vitoria is also relatively low. So I usually say the Portuguese league is a top 3, and then it's a bloodbath. But we can already see that there is actually a 4-tier system with Porto up top, 5 points cleared, and Sporting and Benfica close together. Then we have a field of teams that have currently above 20 points, but then from 9th to last, it is really close, although Tondela and AVS are already pretty much relegation top candidates. That much is also for certain. So yeah, that ends this last episode before Christmas. I know that Premier League, Serie A and Liga Portugal have games before the new year. I gotta be honest, my focus will be on the AFCON. So if I record another episode, it will be on the AFCON most likely, and I will leave the other stuff for the new year. That's at least the plan for now. I also have to say I wanna really record. I usually do a year-end review with my moments of the year. I used to do this on my main channel. I'm thinking of putting this also on this podcast. So really, what were the events that moved me during the year? You can expect that on New Year's Eve. Let's see how you will enjoy that one. It's usually one of my most favorite episodes to do every year, going through the year. And I know it should be during the end of the season, but honestly, this year, the end of the season was so poorly defined with the Club World Cup being in there, where you didn't know if this is a new season, is it the old season. Yeah, the Club World Cup will feature, but not very high. That much I can also tell you. Well, then the only thing that's left for me to say is I wanted to wish you happy holidays. Enjoy the time with family and friends, I hope. And as I said, I will probably give you a year-end review episode. I will most likely give you the episode on the AFCON group stage, and we will see how else it will be going. One thing is for certain, I will talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye!